Hello and welcome back to Reading Past Midnight, where we discuss all manners of books and wonderful things about reading and books. Today, we're doing another video in the Genocide Reading Project series. And I have two books, one a history and one a book of poetry. And the one informs the other. The Rape of Nanking. The Forgotten Holocaust of World War II by Iris Chang. And this deals with the massacres that took place in Nanking while the Japanese were occupying it. This is grim reading, but it's important reading. It's important that we know how people behave. And if there's one thing that you should learn from the Genocide Reading Project, it's that none of us are immune from being perpetrators or victims. The Chinese were victims here. The Japanese were perpetrators. Now, China is perpetrating genocides. Our history, especially in the 20th century, the 20th century is ripe with massacres as we learn to mechanize death and murder. The word genocide didn't exist at the beginning of the 20th century. It does now. And it's all too common. The Rape of Nanking is just another step in that learning process as we examine what we are capable of. Iris Chang wrote this book when she started hearing stories from her family members about things that happened during this time. December 1937 is when the Japanese arrived. They didn't leave until towards the end of World War II. The horrors that they perpetrated are as extreme as some of the things the Nazis did. While they didn't have open killing centers and concentration camps the way the Germans did, they certainly were capable of the horrors that the Germans were, as they believed in their own superiority and didn't care about those that they considered lesser and maybe subhuman. When we demonize a people, we can become guilty of such horrors. And it's still going on in the world now. The Nanking Massacre poems by Wing Tek Lum. These are poems written after the fact by someone who has studied but was not a victim himself. Reading from the back. The subject is the notorious Japanese occupation of Nanking, China in 1937. Wing Tek Lum's poems capture all the perspectives of the tragedy, from the weary, casually cruel Japanese soldiers to the uncomprehending child victims, and from the desperate, helpless parents and the brutalized comfort women to the bloodless yet vicious bureaucrats of death. I find it fascinating the way the human spirit manages to turn something this horrible into an artistic act of beauty. The artist rises above the situation and creates a work of art around it, and the art enables us to better understand what happened, to better be able to comprehend and not to forgive and forget, but to understand and remember as we move past it in history. We move past it not in the sense that we forgive, but we move past it as in a sense of time. This happened here, this specific time, this specific place. time moves on. We move on with time. The victims and the perpetrators move on in time. Some heal, some do not. Some can forgive, some cannot. And I am not going to say that we should forgive the perpetrators. I don't know that we should forgive the perpetrators, but we do move on in time. And for those who were victims, forgiveness can help with the healing. But the idea of never forget has its own meaning. And they should not forget what happened to them. They need to express this out in the world so that the world can understand what happened and learn from the past and hopefully not do this again. That's wishful thinking. As we all come full circle and realize that this is still going on, that sometimes victims become perpetrators. I'm sorry, this is just very hard for me to talk about, but I do feel it's necessary. Those of us who were not victims need to learn from history so that we do not support this type of behavior in the future from our governments, from each other. We need to get past this, and that may be the hardest thing for us to do. How do we respond to different situations in different ways? And I don't know if that's possible, if this is just part of human nature that we just can't get past, or if we can. I hope and I pray that we are able to. And one of the best ways, I think, to get to that place is to use art to teach us and to show us to a better way of living, a better way of reacting, a better way of understanding and loving each other and treating each other well. The Nanking Massacre poems should definitely be on your list of reading when reading about genocide, when reading about horror, when reading about perpetrators and victims. These poems are beautiful, and they teach us about perpetrators and about victims. Something worthy of study. Thank you again for joining me on Reading Past Midnight, the Genocide Reading Project. And I know this is a very difficult subject for a lot of us. And we need to face it as much as we can and face down people that are behaving this way in the modern world, because this is still going on. Please hit the like and subscribe if you've made it this far. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you have other books that you think should be part of this project. There are plenty of them. And we'll definitely take a look at some of those. I would love your suggestions. Let me know what you think as we proceed with this project. And let me know if you've got some books that deal with different types of massacres. Maybe they don't reach out to the standard of genocide. And I think I need to do a video about a definition of genocide, because some people would say that this doesn't reach that level, and some people, of course, will say that it does. The Armenians believe what happened to them in Turkey was genocide, as do I. But the Turks maintain that while it did happen, it didn't reach that level of being called genocide. So the nomenclature becomes important to certain groups. which is rather pathetic when you come to think of it. Again, thank you for joining me. Please hit the like and subscribe.